Welcome to
Monday with the Mavens.
All right, we've talked about it before, but we're going to talk about it again, but we're going to make it super efficient, hopefully. All things chronic inflammation.
We are going to actually touch on acute inflammation a bit as well. But yeah, all things inflammation, you guys, we want you to know about it. We want you to know what you can do about it. Why is it good? Why is it bad? How can you heal from it? All of the things.
Let's just talk about it for a minute. And first of all, if you are here joining in, we are so happy to have you here. We would love for you to engage, ask questions, tell jokes, whatever you want to.
We're going to keep it brief.
We are. We have Facebook over here. We have Instagram over here. You guys, it is wild. Chronic low-grade inflammation is a game changer in your health. If you can reduce your inflammation, you can reverse, this is a bold claim, but I believe you can reverse disease. Like you really can. Yeah. Cellular mutation, which oftentimes happens because of chronic low-grade inflammation, leads to disease. It does. It is what leads to cellular mutation that leads to things like cancer and diabetes and all sorts of different heart health issues.
Also, like a lot of cognitive degeneration also, like Alzheimer's, dementia. A lot of that stuff has been linked to chronic inflammation, you guys. And there are things you can do about it. So it is time to take your health in your hands, get it under control, and do what's right for your body.
And what's so cool is one of the things that we do at Macro Mavens is we work with our clients, of course, nutritionally. And nutrition is the biggest thing you can do, even for inflammation. And for your overall health, for all facets of your health. Like what you put in your body is going to be what. But our 5 pillars of wellness, which is what we teach on at Macro Mavens, are all of the things that are going to make a huge impact in your inflammatory health. And so we're going to just touch on those, but let's just talk about the difference between when we talk about low-grade chronic inflammation in the body. That is not a good thing to have that. Acute inflammation, on the other hand, is a brilliant thing that our body can do. So let's just define the differences really quick.
Yeah, so you guys, acute inflammation is exactly what it sounds like. You stub your toe. I'll use myself as an example. I injured my knee skiing. That day, my knee was red. It was hot, and it was gigantic, right? It was so swollen. And acute inflammation is your body's natural immune response to healing itself. You want that. You want the redness. You want the swelling. You want all of the things that encompass acute inflammation, because that means your body is working to heal. Now, there are things that you can do to alleviate a lot of that pain, like ice, taking whatever anti-inflammatory things that you want to do, making sure you're eating an anti-inflammatory diet, number one. But you guys, acute inflammation is our body's natural response, and we want that. It's when that acute inflammation turns into chronic inflammation, when all sorts of things start going haywire and start going bad. So when you stub your toe and you're like, dang it, and you start bleeding and it gets red and swollen, that's a good thing. Yeah. Just like fevers, you guys, like when your kids have fevers, that's inflammation also. It's your body's natural reaction when you have a virus or something. Your body heats itself up from the inside, creating an environment where that virus cannot live, right? That is good. We want that. So often, I remember when my kids were little being like, oh my gosh, they have a fever, and I would panic about it, and I'd have to settle myself down and be like, no, a fever is actually really good. It's killing the thing that is making my child sick. Yeah. So anyway, that's just a really quick ditty on acute inflammation and why it's good, and it is necessary. So let your body do what it's supposed to do in that way.
Okay, but on the other hand, when we're not talking about acute inflammation, when we're talking about our body over time becoming more and more inflamed, chronic low-grade inflammation. Now, there are ways to measure that. We won't get into a ton of the details because we want to keep this quick. But one thing that you can do with your medical provider is have them, and there's different tests that you can look at. One that I really like is what's called an HSCRP. It's a high sensitivity C-reactive protein. You want yours low. And what that does is it allows you to see what are your inflammatory markers. What is your chronic level of inflammation in your body? Because that is going to be a telltale sign as to the overall health of your body and how close you are. Like if you are moving towards disease, or if you are moving towards longevity and health and thriving and a life full of vitality, which is what we want for all of us, right? Yeah. And so that is a really good way to be able to measure it. Now, there are things that you can do to directly influence your level of low-grade chronic inflammation, and we're going to go through those because You guys, if we can understand what is happening in our bodies, inflammation, low-grade chronic inflammation, it affects every cell in our body. So it's going to affect...
Sorry about squeaking. That's my dog, Steve.
It's going to affect our nervous systems. It's going to affect our endocrine system, our ability to produce and keep our own hormones in harmony. It's going to affect our gut. It's going to affect our brain. It affects everything. And so if we can be aware, the biggest number one thing that you can do is what you fuel your body and your brain with. We're going to talk about the other things too, and we're going to keep it quick, but I want to put the most attention on nutrition because, yes, our clients and ourselves for that matter, you can fit in the things that you like. We do not want our clients to live a life of deprivation. However, being aware of what things create the most inflammation can also help you start to reduce or eliminate those foods on the regular and start to find replacements that you enjoy just as much and oftentimes more. So the primary inflammatory foods, and we're going to go through those things. And
we don't want to demonize food either,
No.
you guys. Like if there's something, like Amy said, if there's something you enjoy, then you just need to make sure that what you are enjoying, if it is on this list of inflammatory foods, there are things on this list that I enjoy every day. And that's okay. You have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it something that you need to have in giant quantities?
Yeah.
Is it something that you can reduce down and maybe enjoy occasionally? Like, we're not saying eliminate all of these things, but if you are struggling with low-grade inflammation or you think you might be, these are some steps that you can take in order to help reduce your inflammation.
In other words, like if you feel sluggish, if you're having issues with hormone regulation, if you are feeling like you're pre-diabetic or diabetic or have some form of metabolic dysfunction, you're not able to shed fat like you want to, you're not cognitively clear, you don't have the energy that you want, you're not sleeping well, all of those things are oftentimes a sign that you are inflamed because that is leading you towards disease. It just is. And it can be as simple as that. And so those things, which like Haley said, I fit some of these things in. Actually, I fit several of these things in here or there. It's just that I'm much more aware and it's not something that I try to make a staple. And that's going to be dairy, which is controversial, grains, which is controversial. And once again, like some people have more, so I'll finish going through them first. Dairy, grains, sugar, so refined sugars of any kind. Seed oils, and that's a huge one, you guys, and then alcohol. And if we can start to look at those categories, and sometimes people will be like, well, then what do I eat? If we just stick to whole foods, foods from the ground, foods that walk around, foods from the sea, foods from the air, it really is how we were designed to eat. It's going to be what's going to give us fiber-rich foods that are going to allow our body to digest and get adequate proteins and healthy fats and energized carbohydrates, truly. Now, not everybody has the same reaction to things like dairy and grains. Some people are more sensitive to them than the others. Overall, though, they can create a low-grade chronic inflammation over time. I do fit some things in. I fit some cheese in. I fit some 2 Good yogurts in as far as dairy goes, and I fit some grains in here or there. They're just not huge staples in my nutritional intake. And so it's asking yourself the question, what are the things that you really love, and what are areas that you could reduce? Let's talk about each of those for just a minute. We don't have to spend as much time on dairy and grains, but seed oils is a big question. It is one of the more inflammatory things that we put in our body, and any processed food that you eat is likely going to have seed oils in them. It's going to be your vegetable oils. If you could just replace those, you guys, if you could eliminate things like sugary drinks and eliminate things like seed oils from your diet, you would be better off than like 99% of the population.
And it's really easy to do. All you have to do is go to your pantry, go to your cupboard, look in there and see if you have anything labeled vegetable oil. If you do, toss it and replace it with avocado oil, coconut oil, olive oil. I don't ever buy any other kind of oil. If I am cooking with a recipe that calls for vegetable oil, I use coconut oil or avocado oil. There really is no flavor difference at all, but the health impact is pretty great. Yeah. So it's a really easy swap that doesn't, it might cost a little bit more to get coconut oil or olive oil or avocado oil, but honestly, it's like pennies on the dollar. It's just not going to be that much more expensive than buying regular vegetable oil. So toss out the vegetable oil. Just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and so then on that, and then alcohol, we talked about this in our client Zoom this morning. Once again, like if you enjoy a drink, like absolutely have your drink. Pre-track it if you're tracking. But being aware that alcohol is one of the more inflammatory things you can do for your body, and you're going to have a harder time having a really healthy metabolic response when you're consistently drinking alcohol. So enjoy your drink here or there. If you're somebody that's drinking daily, maybe ask yourself some questions. And once again, it's that, is it worth it? And how do you want to feel? Our clients can make progress while having alcohol, but they're not going to have as good of progress if maybe they're a little bit more mindful about it.
Yep, totally. We touched on dairies and grains. You guys, to each their own.
Yes.
If you love dairy, if you love grains, you, again, like, take everything we say with a grain of salt and do your own research as far as like, how do you feel? How does your body feel? I didn't know until I eliminated, I did like a Whole30 years ago. I've done it several times where I eliminated all of those food groups for 30 days and then slowly started reintroducing things back. And it wasn't until I started reintroducing things back that I realized what kind of a reaction my body was having to wheat. Now, do I still eat wheat from time to time? I do. I allow myself that from time to time. But generally speaking, I try to stay away from most gluten and I feel better because of it. Now, I'm not saying that that's right for everybody. It's not. You need to be the judge of what is right and what is going to make you feel the best. And so if you do find yourself like feeling a little bit like foggy brained, and a lot of times I remember thinking years ago, like, well, what does that even mean? And it wasn't until I was like actually feeling like pretty foggy brained where like I couldn't get a word. Like if I was trying to say something, like the words weren't coming as easily as they used to, or I couldn't recall memories the way that I used to, or things like that, where I realized, wow, it's my dog, things really are affecting me. And it was what I was eating. And so all that's to say, you know, do pay attention to how you feel when you eat certain foods. Don't just take our word for it, because not every body is the same. Every body reacts differently. Yes, these things are inherently inflammatory by nature, but every body processes through those things differently. And maybe you tend to be a little bit more prone to inflammation from wheat than you would dairy. That's how my body responds to dairy pretty well. I don't tend to get very inflamed from dairy. I'm sure that there is some inflammation there just because of the nature of it, but generally speaking, it's not nearly as impactful for me as grains. So anyway, take what we say with a grain of salt, do your own research, analyze how you're feeling, keep a food journal, you guys, of what you're eating and how that food makes you feel. We say it all the time, but the only thing you should feel when you're done with a meal is not hungry.
Yeah.
You shouldn't
not
feel
even overly full.
No.
Yeah.
You shouldn't feel bloated. You shouldn't feel like stuffed. You shouldn't feel sick. You shouldn't feel sleepy.
Yeah.
All you should feel is not hungry.
And also understanding true hunger cues versus just like boredom or habit. Like that's a really powerful thing, and that's an entirely different subject. But the other thing
we should talk
on
about that sometime.
We should.
Yeah.
The other thing on that is that in order to get a feel for how you're feeling from foods, you oftentimes have to eliminate them and then reintroduce them. Yeah. And that's a whole nother subject, but that allows you to actually one at a time figure out how your body reacts. Now, just because you don't necessarily feel awful right after eating something doesn't mean that you don't have chronic inflammation growing in your body if you're consistently eating these things because of how they work at a cellular level. Yeah. So all of that said, low-grade chronic inflammation, we want to keep it low. We want to keep it non-detectable.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing you can do is nutrition. However, our other 4 pillars that we talk about absolutely have an influence on the inflammation in your body. And so we'll just go through those real quick because we said we're going to keep this quick. We're going to talk about sleep. We're going to talk about stress resiliency. We're going to talk about movement, and we're going to talk about hydration.
And we have Monday with the Mavens on each of these specifically. If you go to our YouTube channel, you can look these up. There's also in our Instagram. But you can look at each one of these where we do a deep dive on each one.
And in addition to that, not all of our tools are on the toolbox of our website because some are for our clients only. So we have an entire non-inflammatory protocol that we can work with our clients. That is not on our website. However, we do have a deep and restorative sleep overview. We have a stress resiliency overview. We have a hydration overview. We have a movement overview. All of those are free tools on our website, macromavens.life. Click on the toolbox. We really just want to have good information out there for you guys. Ideal is that you come work with us and we can customize that specifically for you and work with you on your inflammation. And
implement these things like very specifically.
Yeah. And to do that, you just click the hop on board button on our website, macromavens.life. We always offer a free consult. See if we're a good fit. And if we are, we'd love to work with you.
Totes. Yeah. All right, let's dive into sleep. Let's start with sleep.
Okay.
So you guys, we talk about, Emmy and I were kind of waffling this morning, about what we were going to talk about. And one of the things that we were toying with was talking about detoxification. And we talked about it a bit in our stories. But one thing that our bodies are really good at is detoxing. And one of the ways that our bodies detox is when we sleep. Yeah. When we get into our deep sleep stage, you guys, that's when our body cleans its cells. It cleans out all of the junk. And it helps to restore us. That's why sometimes when you get a really great night's sleep, you wake up in the morning and you feel refreshed and renewed. And other times you get a crappy night's sleep, you may get plenty of sleep as far as quantity, but not quality. Sorry, Steven's in the back causing problems. His name is really Samson, but anyway, you can check out our stories if you want to know why I call him other things. When we are getting deep sleep, our body is cleaning our cells, you guys. It is getting rid of all of like the damaged cells, the dead cells, and it is helping us to feel renewed and rejuvenated. And so there will be nights when you wake up in the morning, even though you've had plenty of sleep. and you don't feel refreshed and you don't feel renewed. And oftentimes it's because you didn't get enough deep sleep and your body wasn't able to fully clean itself the way it should, or to detox itself, if you will. So
yeah, and there's a lot of things that you can do to just naturally get more deep restorative sleep. And that's something we've done a deep dive on for a long time, because it's an area we've both wanted to improve. We both wear an Oura Ring, track all of our sleep, our deep sleep, our REM sleep, our light sleep, our sleep cycles, our temperature, kind of all of those things to see what affects it. And it is a little bit different for everybody. However, there are things we can all do. If you are not already trying to minimize artificial lights a couple hours before you go to bed, including any type of screens, or at minimum wearing blue light blocking glasses, trying to stop eating or drinking a couple hours before bed so that your body can appropriately have things digested, and not trying to do all the digesting early on. Thank you for the thumbs up over here. If you can keep a cold, dark room, if you can minimize distractions in your room, like a TV, a pet, a kiddo, whatever it may be, if you can have your room be more of like your sanctuary, if you can practice some breathing, some gratitude, some prayer before you go to bed, it can really make a difference going to bed with a restful heart. If you're one that wakes up with a racing brain of all the things, one of the things I've gotten the habit of doing, and I actually haven't been so good about this lately, is writing a list before I go to bed of all of my must-haves, or pre-checking my calendar for the next day, and just really going to bed with a plan so that if I do wake up in the middle of the night, that plan is already there. And then if you've done all of those things and you're still struggling, that is when you could consider some form of supplementation. We created Super Sleep just for that. We want people to do all the natural, Super Sleep is natural, but all of the free, easy things first and really maximize their sleep. And if there's still a struggle, oftentimes it could have to do with your cortisol levels at night. Super Sleep helps naturally regulate your nighttime cortisol levels, which can also help with weight management, but it allows you to stay into a deeper sleep state, and you don't wake up with any sort of a hangover effect or anything like that. And so anyway, sleep, you guys, if one of your goals is fat loss and you are not prioritizing your sleep, you are going to have an uphill battle.
Yep.
Sleep is so important from an inflammatory standpoint as well.
Crucial. And I just want to say one more thing on sleep real quick, and then we'll move on. I feel like you're really looking at me.
I'm so curious what you're going to say.
I've been really working on my sleep for probably the last year or more. I'm trying to get more deep sleep, and I take Super Sleep every single night. But one thing that I just did within the last few weeks that has really like changed things for me is I just lowered the temperature in my bedroom. I have a thermostat in my bedroom, and I keep it low. I keep it at 64 degrees. It's pretty chilly in there, but I lowered it 1 degree. I dropped it down to 63 degrees, and starting that night, I started getting more deep sleep than I had previously. So if you can just lower the temperature in your bedroom 1 degree,
my window open. It's pretty chilly.
Yeah, 1 degree, then it's amazing what it does for you. So anyway,
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about nutrition, we've talked about sleep. Let's talk about stress resiliency. So once again, we actually have a joy strategy overview, which can lead into becoming more stress resilient, and then a stress resiliency overview on our macromavens.life toolbox on our website. And you guys, I know we all hear this, like stress can lead to disease, stress can lead to chaos, like what happens when we are living in a state of chronic stress is it creates more chronic inflammation in our bodies. We can't eliminate all stress in our life. We can't. But there are things that we can do. We can, one, look at what our biggest stressors are and what of those can we eliminate. And then two, the ones that we can't, how can we become more stress resilient in terms of how we are responding to the stressors in our life and where we can take responsibility and what we can shift. That alone can be huge. It's taking an inventory and it's really looking about what can you do about it, and then having tools in your toolbox, things like understanding how to use breath. It can be so powerful. There's so many different breathing techniques, but truly understanding how you can calm your nervous system so that you're not having that constant reactive. We have our sympathetic nervous system, which is going to be our fight or flight. And we have our parasympathetic nervous system, which is going to be our rest and digest. We want to try to understand how we can tap into our parasympathetic nervous system so that our body and our nervous system can truly relax so that we can rest and digest, which also has an impact on our gut, on our endocrine system, on our all of it, on our sleep. And so some ways to do that are to have a restorative routine or have things in your life, getting out in nature, moving your body, getting first of the morning sunshine, understanding how to breathe, having a gratitude practice, all of those things, having a strong prayer life, depending on like where you're at with that. Like those things are really powerful in understanding how to utilize the superpower of our parasympathetic nervous system. Yeah. It's huge.
It is. And also, you guys, like we talk about this also, like tackle the low hanging fruit in your life as far as stress goes. Like if for me, it's silly things. It's like really silly things, like putting off a phone call. Yeah. You know, like a phone call that's going to take me 5 or 10 minutes. And I'm just like, I just don't want to do it. Yeah. Like once you get it done, it just like changes everything. I have had a few things on my list as far as like I need to sit down at my computer and I need to tick off some of these things. Like for my kid who is getting ready to graduate, you know, I have a handful of things that I've just been putting off. And you know what? Honestly, I sat down the other day. I spent an hour on my computer and I got like 5 things off my list and I felt like this giant weight was lifted. Yeah. So if there are things on your list that are just kind of looming over you, you know, it's kind of like the Marie Kondo of our brain. If you can go in and like organize those things or take care of them or check them off your list, it really will make a huge, huge difference in your stress. And just like that general, now there are a lot of things that we can't just like tick off the list and then we feel better. There's lots of big things that happen in our lives. All of us know that. And stress is a natural part, but if you can learn how to get rid of the little things to make it so that you have more brain space to then process through the big things, it will really benefit you in the long run.
Yeah. Nope, it absolutely will. Okay, we talked about nutrition, we talked about sleep, we talked about stress. We'll make these last 2 really quick: movement and hydration. You guys, nutrition is the foundation. Your results are going to be 80% plus food, and then the rest is going to be these other things. But they are important. And outside of just physique purposes, like for our mental health, and for our inflammation, moving our bodies, just simply moving our bodies. We try to first, like if a client comes to us in a fairly sedentary state, we're going to first dial in their nutrition. We don't want to give them too much at one time. Once we get them dialed in there, we're going to have them just start moving their bodies. We want them to work up to at least 10,000 steps a day. If they're already there, we're going to push them beyond that. Then we're going to start looking at things like some resistance training for muscle building and preservation, which leads to longevity. But it's simply moving your body. You can do simple things throughout the day. Set a timer, walk on your lunch, do working meetings, park further away, take the stairs, like come up with a workout routine, get outside, rain or shine. Like any of those things are going to make such a huge difference for you.
Yeah, and you don't have to, it doesn't have to be crazy, you guys. Yeah. In fact, I had a couple clients over the weekend be like, what do you do to get out of a funk? I'm like, I just go outside and I take my dog for a walk. Yeah. I don't do anything crazy. I don't go super far. I just get my dog on his leash and we go outside and we walk. And it is incredible what that will do to your mental state, to your outlook, to your perspective on life, to all of it. You just need to get out and move. Sometimes now, and not everybody's like this, I get stuck in my head, right? And I get like this, like repeating thing going on in my brain and I can't get out. And I have to get outside and move. And then all of a sudden it's just like, you know what? This mental loop that I'm stuck in, like it stops as soon as I start moving. And so it's so
and
simple, you guys.
Walking meetings, like whether it's like with the clinics that I, work with, Haley and I, whatever it may be, like if somebody's willing, whether you're on a call or in person, like I actually think so much clearer when I'm walking.
Oh my gosh,
we get so much done
on
our walking meetings. It's amazing.
Yep.
And then the other part of that is just, you guys, for me, and Haley was talking about walking, and I think this is similar for her too, but you start needing it. Like if it becomes part of your routine, like you start needing it. I am a better person when I am moving my body. And I also like to like grind and sweat. And like that for me is a big release. And that's going to go to the stress resiliency piece in the terms of the movement. But like it can be such a huge tool in your toolbox of reducing inflammation, but just also overall health.
Yep. So get out there, move your body. No excuses. Last, let's talk about hydration.
Yeah.
We've talked about everything. We will hit on hydration last, and then we will wrap this up with a beautiful bow, you guys. I swear we talk about drinking your water all the time because it is so important. It is next to nutrition, you guys.
It's truly life.
It honestly, like you cannot live without water. And so, most of us are not drinking enough water. I know that I fail to drink enough water many days. Now I'm also.
We should do a new challenge with each other.
We talked about that, and then it just kind of Anyway, we should. You guys, if you're not getting half of your body weight in ounces of water every day, you are dehydrated. Simple as that. Also, if you are getting half of your body weight in ounces of water every day, but you're also like drinking that much coffee. Or iced tea or anything with caffeine, you need to be doubling up. So whatever you are drinking, as far as like a caffeinated drink goes, you need to replace that with water. Because you'll just pee it all out. And so you want to make sure that you are getting more than enough, ample water. Oftentimes too, if you are on a fat loss journey and you are dehydrated, you are doing yourself a disservice. One of the fastest ways you can train your body to shed fat is to drink enough water. Our bodies want to flush out all of the toxins. They want to flush out extra fat. It wants to flush our bodies. And if you're not drinking enough water, your body is hanging onto that. Water retention is a real thing, you guys, and it doesn't have to be. So drink your water.
It's funny because each of these we talk about, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so important. And we don't want to throw too much at our clients at any given time, but at the same time, they are all just foundational things that if we make a habit, literally change our lives.
Literally.
Water is accessible to almost everybody on this earth. That's clean and free and right in front of you, and it gives you energy, and it helps with your sleep, and it helps with your skin, and it helps with your hair, and it helps with your fat loss, and it helps with your hormones. It helps with everything. Same thing with sleep, you guys. Sleep has been a struggle for me in my life, and I've been able to have seasons where like I've really been able to dial it in, and oh my gosh, what a difference that makes. If we can prioritize our sleep, if we can move our bodies, if we can understand the impact of stress and become more stress resilient, and then if we can feed and fuel our bodies and our brains, it just makes a huge difference.
The biggest.
Life is different when you have those foundational pieces. And if we could all live with less inflammation, we are going to be healthier, more well-adjusted, more energetic, kinder, hormonally balanced humans that are moving towards health and not towards disease. So let's move away from disease and towards health.
Yeah. So just to wrap it up with a beautiful bow, you guys, chronic inflammation, there are so many things that you can do in order to help rid yourself of chronic inflammation. Drink enough water, get enough sleep. Number one, actually, I should start with nutrition. Make sure that you are eating the proper amount of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, hydration, sleep, moving your body, you guys, stress, resilience, all of those things are what is going to take you to the next level of overall general health and wellness. And you will just be a better person for those that you love, for yourself. And it's time.
It's time.
It's time.
So if you are interested, and if you have a coach, fantastic. If you're feeling good and on this journey and making traction, amazing. But if you don't quite know where to start, or you don't want to have to reinvent the wheel, like that is why we're here. And that's what we love, getting to be a coach in your corner with a process that works. So you can go to mavens.life. You can click the hop on board button. It's just a free consult. It's a conversation. We'll see if we're a good fit. We'll answer questions and we'll go from there. And we would love to work with you guys.
Yep. So, gosh, I guess we won't be here next week. I'll be out of town. But stay tuned. Emmy will drop, I'm just going to tell her, she's going to drop a question box next week. If you do have questions, feel free to send us a DM, slip into our DMs, and we'd be happy to answer your questions.
And I don't know, will we get to see you on your trip at all?
We'll see.
Yeah. No pressure. We should just let her be. But I want to watch.
We'll see.
Okay, bye guys.
Bye guys.
Have the best week.
Ciao.